Today, we're going to talk about pickling versus canning.
There's got to be a better way than this.
Very nice. I'm sure you've seen, if you've been watching my videos, that at some point I did a survey, and one of the questions that I asked people was, what's the difference between pickling and canning? And I was absolutely amazed because I think it was only 17% of people knew what was going on, what the difference was, and could actually describe what pickling was versus what canning was. First lesson before we get into any kind of pickling or canning is what is pickling and what is canning? What are the differences? Alright, so pickling is, both of them, pickling and canning, are both methods used to preserve food, namely vegetables. However, it can be used with meat as well. It's really not much of a difference. It's a preservation technique. We came up with it as human beings a long time ago. I mean, a long time ago. Thousands of years ago, we figured out how to pickle stuff and can stuff. We've been doing it ever since. But what it is it's a way of making our crops that we grow in the winter last, the crops that we grow in the summer last throughout the winter until we get our next year's crops. And so, let's start off with pickling. Pickling is whenever we put a type of food, like I said, namely it's vegetables, and with pickles it's usually cucumbers. With pickling it's usually cucumbers. We take that food and we put it into a substance, and we are relying upon that substance to keep the food from decaying or spoiling. So with pickling, it's primarily two different types of substances. You have vinegar and you have salt or brine. Okay, so there's your pickling right there. Now, whenever you get pickles or anything like that in a store, right here I have some pickled banana peppers from Vlasic, which I like, right? But whenever you get these from the store, you'll notice that they are vacuum sealed. And so there's the confusion of, well, is this pickled or is this canned? No, this is pickled. All right. Now, like I said, we've been doing this for centuries for sure, maybe millennium. I don't know. But before, whenever we pickled stuff, we didn't seal it like this. We didn't vacuum seal it. We understood that it was pickled and the stuff inside the jar was good, even if something on the top was floating around that kind of looked like mold and was really nasty. It's like cheese. We peel the mold off, we discard it, and the stuff that's inside is still good. That's pickling. Now, a lot of people did things improperly and stuff, and around the turn of the century, of the 19th century, the United States developed this organization called the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. I think there's like the USDA or something like that. I don't know. I'm not one of those people, so don't think that I am. And if you're looking for that, go someplace else. The dealio is they put a lot of restrictions and limitations on food processing plants, which is a good thing. I'm not saying it's bad. Because, it makes sure that everybody has a borderline process that they use, and to guarantee that we're safe from things like botulism. All right? But pickling, in a nutshell, we are putting food into some sort of substance and we are depending on that substance from keeping it from decaying or spoiling. Now, how does it do this? Basically, it's because bacteria, microorganisms, yeasts, they don't grow. They are killed by the briny water solution, and they're killed by the vinegar water solution, whatever it is that you're using. So that's how it happens. The bacteria is not allowed into the vinegar because it can't live there. Basically, it's like us going to Mars without a respirator or something. We can't live in that environment. So there's your pickling. And you do it with all kinds of stuff. You got pickled beets, you got pickled corn, you got actual pickles, pickled cucumbers. You have salt brine cucumbers and all kinds of different stuff. You have pickled meat as well, pickled pig's feet. It's not my thing, but a lot of people like it, I guess. But you have pickled sausages, which I do. I love those. So look around, you'll probably find a video for those. If it's not there, it'll be up soon. So you pickle all sorts of different things. Now, I know I'm long-winded. Let's move on to canning. Canning. The way that canning preserves food is we literally cook the food at such a high temperature that it's guaranteed to have killed off everything. Right? We put it into a jar, and we get the jar that hot as well with the lid on top of it. And this ensures that everything inside, all the microorganisms, all the yeasts, all the bacteria is dead. Gone, right? Not you, Cliff, though. So, there's your canning, right? Now, during this process, the process of cooking, we are actually creating a vacuum inside the can. I don't have anything that's just been canned. Sad. Well, it's the beginning of summer. I've eaten all my stuff. Anyways, but what happens is whenever you heat up any substance, liquid specifically, solids might tend to swell a little bit, but whenever you heat up liquids and food products and stuff, it will expand. Right? So what we do is we take the food, we put it inside of a jar, and we put it in there hot. Right? You put it inside a jar, and you close up the lid on it. Right? And then you put this either into a boiling water bath. Right? So that's going to put it up to about 212 degrees. Or you actually put it in a pressure canner. The pressure canner is the exact same thing as a pressure cooker. The only difference is the pressure canner is big enough to accept great big jars. So we put it in the pressure canner in case we're doing things that need to be above 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Alright? So, in canning, we got this sitting in the hot water bath or whatever. This makes everything inside there swell. Now, a little bit of it will leak out of the seal here. That's fine and dandy. But, it's usually just gas. If water ever seals and stuff, none of it's a big deal. It's about getting the stuff that's inside here at least up to the boiling temperature. And it depends on what you're doing. Some things you only want to get up to 180 degrees. But what canning is doing is it's getting everything in here hot, right? And then as it cools down, this lid has a nice little rubber seal around it, sort of rubberish. Right? And everything on the inside of the can shrinks. Whenever it shrinks, it creates a vacuum. You hear that? Creating that little seal that we're so used to right here because it's sucking the lid down. Right? And you always know that your seal is still good if you touch that and it won't make any noise. It'll just, right? It won't move back and forth. So, pickling, canning. Pickling uses a substance to keep out bacteria, yeast, and microorganisms, stuff like that, from spoiling the food. Canning is actually using it. We kill it first off with heat. We make sure that we kill all the bacteria and stuff with heat, and then we vacuum seal it. Now the purpose of the vacuum sealing is so that no outside air that didn't have all of the heat, all of the microorganisms killed by heat, it can't get in. So vacuum seal keeps that stuff out. And that brings me to why our pickled substances that are in the market, right, in the stores and everything, they are also vacuum sealed. Right? The reason these are vacuum sealed is because there is a little bit of air up at the top of this. And if it wasn't vacuum sealed, then it could seep in. Now, would it spoil this stuff down here? No, because it's in vinegar. Vinegar is what's keeping it good, right? Not the vacuum seal. What would happen is you would build up mold and just filth on the top, a layer of scum that's called the mother. And if you dig deeply into that, you'll probably figure out why it's called the mother, and it's a nasty idea. So there's your difference between pickling and canning. Each are going to yield their own different types of flavors. Canning you usually use for vegetables, sauces, and stuff like that you want to actually taste like the vegetable. Pickling is usually used whenever you want either maybe a light fermentation process going on so that it gets a pungent taste, like with sauerkraut, right? Or with my pickled corn, right? So pickling is going to taste quite different from the actual vegetable or fruit that you eat right straight off the vine. So there's your differences. I hope you learned something, and you're welcome.